This is Space Cat's Peace Turtles, the unofficial podcast for Fantasy Flight's Twilight Imperium.
Episode 38, Twilight Imperium, the movie.
Music by Ben Prunty, featuring Matt Martins and Hunter Donaldson.
Episode 38, Twilight Imperium, the movie. I mean, what would Matt say when he was starting an episode?
He'd say something stupid. He'd be like, hey, so welcome to... He'd have some bit where he'd be like, oh, look at me, it's time to start the show, ha 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 ha, isn't this funny? And then I'm just sitting there like, I don't even get like what the bit is or like what, you know, how this is supposed to work.
Yeah. I already considered doing an Australian accent, but on the one hand, well, I don't want to do it.
No, come on, don't be shy.
The main tech coalition.
See, this was supposed to be a bit where we make fun of Matt a little bit, but instead
we're just making fun of ourselves.
Yeah, and also you kind of just did like a Matt's greatest hits kind of role there, because like that. I mean, I think that's the funniest thing that Matt ever said on the show. Yeah, I mean, with me, it's like, I mean that clip, that reel of things I've said on the show that are super funny. I mean, that's like an hour long, you know, of bits, and like who could even pick out one? But with Matt, yeah, it's just that time he said Mentech Coalition. I can't even do it. Mentech.
I can't do it either.
Well, welcome to Space Cat's Peace Turtles. If you haven't noticed, Matt is not here, and the reason is I just heard a very loud car horn.
I can't tell if that was on your end or my end.
It was on your end.
No, listener, it was on your end.
Yeah. No, that was actually, it wasn't me or Alex, that was you. So yeah, Matt's not here this week because of some pretty difficult like kind of family tragedy stuff that struck quite suddenly, and we were obviously not prepared for it. We did not have an episode loaded, so we're going to kind of goof around today. I want to say this kind of to the community. Matt's kind of having a pretty difficult week, and I would ask that you all please be kind and considerate to him while he deals with this. It's not really my thing to share, and so I'm obviously not going to today. But yeah, just be kind, be cool, be sweet. He will be back next week, and everything will be back to normal. So I would say the episode that we have for you today with me and Alex is going to be pretty silly and not really too focused on strategy. So if you're annoyed that we've taken such a break from strategy, that does not end today, my friend. We are just in a fun mode, a fun zone.
I'm having a great time.
Yeah, and essentially today we are going to just break down what we would want from a Twilight Imperium movie. That's it. That's basically it. So if that's not your thing, that is what we're gonna do today. And then next week back to the hardcore math, numbers, strategy that you know and love from this show. We'll be stiff and straight like you love it, and we're going to talk about, you know, what exactly, how the numbers break down with the Sardak Nor racial advantage. Is it worth it? Is it not? Well, we're going to talk about it for 2 hours next week. But today, we're just going to kind of chill and talk about how cool it would be if there was a Twilight Imperium movie.
I mean, this is also a kind of like a pilot for a podcast I've been wanting to do for a long time, which is just board games as movies. So we've got a Catan movie in the works.
Right.
Puerto Rico, of course. Dixit is the hard one.
Yeah. Dixit's going to be mostly impossible.
Just kind of like shifting images, very abstract. No words, of course.
Right. I mean, what words could there be? And I would prefer no music, too, because there's no music in the game.
Oh,
you know?
Yeah.
Right. It doesn't come with music.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is a dynamite idea that more board games need to be movies. And also, let's kind of get this out of the way. How qualified are we to be speaking about movies? Alex?
Not very. No, I mean, I watch movies. I like movies. I put a little too much time into thinking about Twilight Imperium as a movie. Mm-hmm. I will say at the start of this episode, especially as we were putting the outline for this episode together, I have felt pretty disengaged from popular culture movies.
Yeah.
Recently.
I learned a lot about you and what you know about and what you don't know about.
Yeah. So, but, you know, I don't know. I grew up loving Star Wars, saw all of the best 3 Star Wars prequels in the theater. I don't know.
So I actually brought this up and it's you're being very, very humble right now, but I brought this up more for you to say that because you make movies, you have made at least a film, you know?
Yeah. That's all I have to say. Sorry.
That's so great that you're here, and I'm like, hey, do you want to plug your thing? No, hard pass. You don't want to plug it? You don't want to plug your movie?
No, yeah, that's what I do. I am currently working for a film festival. I don't really want to say which one, just for the...
I'll give you a hint. It rhymes with moon dance.
Actually, no.
No. Well, I know. I was trying to throw him off the scent.
Oh, yeah. It rhymes with Moon Becca.
Ah, I like that.
So I'm working with them, and part of doing that work is screening submissions. So I'm actually watching a lot of feature films nowadays and judging them. That doesn't necessarily mean I could make the best sci-fi extravaganza of all time, though.
Right. And there's probably not a lot of sci-fi extravaganzas that you're getting, or any science fiction. Is there any science fiction to speak of?
I did. I can't say anything about it, especially on a podcast. But I have seen one science fiction movie, and that's literally all I can say.
That's the extent of it. All right. Well, dope. So those are kind of Alex's qualifications. He does some kind of work for some kind of film festival. He's also a film director, although we're not going to speak about that either. What qualifies me to speak on movies? Well, I wrote one once, and I'm smart. So that's pretty much it. I like movies, and I have found out in preparing this episode that I know a lot more about pop culture than Alex knows, and that is actually quite useful. But let's just get into it, because you're like, I'm sure at this point, wondering, what is this episode really going to be? And let me tell you, it's just going to be exactly what we're saying. So what kind of... If Twilight Imperium was to be made into a feature film, what kind of movie would we want it to be? I think the most obvious, kind of right off the bat, and this connects back to even Twilight Imperium's roots, is, would this be Star Wars? Would we want it to be Star Wars, essentially? Is that what we want?
Are you asking me or them? I was waiting for them to say something.
Yeah. See, it was kind of up to them, but I think, I don't know. How much like Star Wars should it be? What Star Wars? Because there's two very different types of Star Wars. There is the Disney Star Wars that we're getting right now, which kind of has its pros and cons that won't be covered in this show. Or there's like the George Lucas Star Wars, where there's a crazy man at the helm, and whatever he says goes. And if he says that the Force is little microbacterial organisms in your blood, then that's what it is, and no one can stop him. I mean, Twilight Imperium as a fiction is definitely more of a George Lucas thing, with Christian T. Peterson as the crazy person that basically decides what goes. And yes, it is our official position on this show that Christian T. Peterson is at least a little bit crazy. We mean it in a good way, but he must at least be.
I mean, there's even the parallel with the Christmas special and what one listener, a Mr. Jadapake, refers to as the forbidden texts. The role-playing game source books.
Right. I wish we had those. I want to see more and more of those. I want to do something with those eventually. But yeah, you're right. That both series have, like, you know, these kind of unspeakables attached to them. Yeah. Depending on your point of view, even you might even feel like there's a lot more to be unspeakable about with Star Wars than with Twilight Imperium. Mm-hmm. But I think in the past when we've talked about this, I just feel like, would Twilight Imperium be, I like the term that you've used in the past, like a ship movie. Would it be a movie about a ragtag group of heroes, and they're on this ship flying through space, and the ship is sort of like the apartment that Jerry Seinfeld lives in Seinfeld?
It's just about to say the same thing. You know, I was saying that it shouldn't be, and then the more I thought about it, the more I thought that it should.
Why should it? Yeah, here's
the reason for that. So with Twilight Imperium, obviously there's a lot that you have to cram in, especially if we're talking about a one movie, and that's you know, why not 3 movies? Why not the trilogy? Why not a mini-series? But we gave ourselves our parameters, and we said just the one movie. That's all we're going to get. And then maybe they like it sells, and we'll get more.
Right.
But there's so much scale that you have to communicate. And then again, you do just have to have a protagonist to filter it through, or a group of protagonists.
Right.
So I think the way to do it is the ship game.
I think the reason, another reason why, is that the fiction of Twilight Imperium and just the idea of the game in general, it's actually quite bleak. Like, when you try and think about it in in the context of a movie, I mean, essentially the game is just you play as one nation of people, and you essentially just, like, I mean, you're just out for yourself as much as possible. So I think we both wouldn't really want to do a movie that was just about one nation.
Right.
So it would always have to be a ragtag collection of the various factions of Twilight Imperium. But and then how do you do that essentially without it being a ship movie? Because we'd want it to still be faithful. Like, I would want it to feel like there isn't really like I think you were saying before that like Twilight Imperium isn't really focused on like good or evil. Good or evil is actually not very like important in the Twilight Imperium fiction. It's really just about conquest, and that's because it's a board game. But I think in the context of a movie, the only way that we can be faithful to that design choice of all of the factions being kind of morally gray is if we do have a group, you know, of characters that can be good or whatever, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think the alternative to doing it as a group of protagonists is kind of like I mean, you're gonna have to tell me if this is right or wrong, but a Game of Thrones style ensemble thing where you're constantly moving between places, constantly looking at how these characters' choices are interacting with one another.
I mean, I think that's the other way you could go, basically.
Yeah.
I think you either go the Star Wars way, or it's a Game of Thrones thing where we've got, you know, the Hakan as the Lannisters and, I don't know, like, the Sardak Nor as the Starks. I like that.
There's the smoke monster in there somewhere.
Right. Yeah, and there's a smoke monster, and they're all shipwrecked on Mechatol Rex, which is an island. But yeah, I mean, I think if it's going to be a movie, it's kind of got to be a Star Wars-y thing, which isn't bad.
Unless you want to go like a 3 or 4 hour intermission kind of route, 2-hour parts.
I wish, like, side note, I kind of wish movies had intermissions.
Oh, of course, yeah.
Intermissions are great, and I really don't understand why we got rid of them, because movies are so dang long. I went to see the new Jurassic Park movie yesterday. Don't go see it. I didn't like it at all, but it was quite long for just a movie about dinosaurs that are, you know, eating people. It was really long. I could have used a break.
Yeah. If you're a hotshot studio filmmaker and you're listening to this, or producer, whoever,
right,
and you're listening to this right now, if your movie is hitting the 3 hour mark, you gotta go for an intermission.
Yeah, we got pee, dude. Like, come on. Let us go buy another drink, more popcorn, whatever.
Check in with each other about how Act 3 is gonna come in.
Well, I mean, I think we can go ahead and commit the Twilight Imperium movie to having an intermission.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be 3 hours. That's our mark.
What do we think about it being like a quest movie, like Lord of the Rings, with some sort of MacGuffin at the center? I don't know if I'm using the term MacGuffin correctly, but
no,
yeah, something
that's the classic MacGuffin.
Is the ring?
The ring,
in Lord
yeah.
of the Rings? Yeah. It's probably the best MacGuffin. Like, it's actually a good object. Or I guess the other way you could do it is maybe like Star Trek, but I don't even really want to go there. I don't even really care. I think the easiest to actually explore is to talk about it more in the sense of it being a Star Wars thing, because it's tied to the roots of it. And I think that if it was going to be a movie, like Game of Thrones was like such a huge, you know, commitment, and like, we're not going to get that, you know, we're just like begging the studios for this movie.
Oh, yeah,
right?
Yeah, of course.
We all want it. JK, I mean, whatever. But I think if we kind of just talk about it in the sense of a Star Wars movie, I think it will make the most sense if we do it that way. So if we talk about it like that, like, it's kind of a morally gray universe in Twilight Imperium, but who do we feel like we could pick out from all the factions to be like the bad guys? Like, if we went the Game of Thrones route, it could sort of be everybody, or like half of the factions. But if we go the Star Wars route, it really works better, I feel like, if we have like one main antagonist. And who do we feel like is the baddest of the bad, really?
Well, I think that's two questions packed into one, Hunter. Here's the thing. If this Twilight Imperium movie gets made, who knows if there'll be a second one. Which it will.
I mean, it will.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But who I think should be the primary antagonist of the first inaugural Twilight Imperium movie is not going to be the baddest of the bad. Because, you know, it's like in Breaking Bad, when those... when the two brothers show up.
Right.
You know, or like when Gus shows up, you have to have a worse enemy.
Right.
Just in case we need it. Which is obviously the baddest of the bad is the necrovirus.
Right. That's the big bad. That's the biggest baddie at the table.
It's the biggest bad. So we're gonna take one step back and say the L1Z1X.
Yeah, and I think they're definitely good enough to carry this film. There's actually, I kind of want to skip down to something that I think might be interesting to kind of like just define in general. Is for our, like, if we were making the screenplay, which we're not, and that's not what we're gonna do today, but.
Oh, I was going to do that. I was going to work on that tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, maybe we should, and that would be kind of fun to... It would actually... Actually, no joke, I'm not even goofing off. Is that a... Did we just get a cat on the podcast?
Yeah.
Is that a cat? That's our first actual cat on Space Cat's Peace Turtles. That's awesome. Who is that cat? Can you tell us real quick?
That's my cat, Ernie.
Ernie. Thank you. Thank you very much, Ernie.
And for the record, he has sat at the table with me while I played as the Hakan.
He would. He's a good man. Well, so one thing we want to do real quick is, like, for our idea of what a TI movie would be, we kind of went through all of the factions and broke them down as far as what kind of parts we feel like they would play in a story. Like, which ones we feel like sound like villainous more, and which ones we feel like are kind of the heroes of a story, and which ones we feel like are kind of neutral or mysterious. So I'm just going to kind of throw these out there, and we probably, some things we have more to talk about and some things we'll have less to talk about. This is kind of just like our gut feeling. And I'll say this, when we started making this list, it was very apparent that, like, oh wow, a majority of these factions are just villainous. Like, they just seem pretty, they're mostly, they have a lot of bad in them. But obviously, you've got L1, you've got Necro as your pretty obviously bad guys. We threw Mentak into villainous because they're pirates.
Yeah, I mean, I want to have a disclaimer for all of these, I think. Because, like, if we're, I mean, even in this movie, and what I was saying about the scope, I don't really feel like it's just the L1 that are... I mean, they're serving the function of the big, bad, evil guy.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that other factions won't kind of be, complications. Right,
so, or like threatening to the overall story. Yeah. Like, the Mentak are so obviously, like, if you're doing a Twilight Imperium movie, the only role that it makes a lot of sense for the Mentak to play is the characters get shanghaied by the Mentak, right? Like, that just makes a lot more sense than us trying to do all of the narrative legwork of making this coalition of pirates into good guys. Although, I don't know, actually, now that I say it out loud, it sounds pretty sexy. But that's what we decided. Okay, this is our thing. We decide. The next one is the Yin, right? Because we hate them. Staying on that. Matt's not here, so I got to carry that flame. We're just going to say that the Yin are the bad guys just because they suck, right?
No, actually.
Oh, okay. All right, some disagreement. Why do you feel like the Yin are the bad guys? Or are villainous?
Well, I have a lot of sympathy for the Yin. Personally, this sounds really silly now that I'm about to say it, but I feel like no one wants to listen to the Yin. But no, I mean, if I'm being serious, they are like a... well, obviously they're all male clones. And they've got this really weird complex with, like, kind of like a Mary figure, like the Mother of Christ, and then a Christ figure.
Right.
You guys were talking about them being like guerrilla fighters. I don't really read them as guerrilla fighters. If anything, I would read the Mentak like that. But I read the Yin as like religious fanatics, and that is what is actually really scary about that. But I do think that there is some place where you could meet them. I imagine the Yin having like whoever the main character would be, you'd fight them for so long, and then you'd finally get to understand what they're about, and there would be a huge redemption with that main character,
Right.
like Darth Vader or something.
I like that. I want to say something real quick, not to dip into strategy territory, but I'm sure it's okay if we have a little bit of that. When me and Matt called them guerrilla fighters, we were doing it more in the context of like what your play style should be.
Right, yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I realize in the actual fiction they are much more religious fundamentalist than they are, guerrilla fighters. But, all right, well, next one we've got is the Arborek as threatening villainous. And I feel like the Arborek in the context of a film, it's not necessarily that they have evil intent, but they're just like, I don't know, they're an evil plant thing. They're like the Sarlacc pit. Like they're not gonna play like a good, nice role in a film. Although, what was the talk on the Discord a long time ago about there being a Twilight Imperium film with an Arborek casino? What is that? Doesn't even make sense. What is that?
I actually meant to give that a shout out. So on the Discord we have a channel called Meme Town, and a while back, actually quite a few months back now, there was a discussion about a fictional Twilight Imperium movie from the 80s, like as if it was like something that went straight to VHS or something.
Right.
And so it involved Steve Martin. He played a part. I forget who the main character was. Rick Moranis was in it. I think as the Hakan character, and Arch Tom of Meme Town had just the perfect bit. We were describing this movie, and then he said something along the lines of like, what, I didn't understand the whole subplot with the Arborek casino. Why would the Arborek have a casino? And that was it. And just the idea of the Arborek having a casino is I mean, that's it. That's the whole joke.
Right. Oh, well, that's great.
I mean, there's no, the Arborek have they don't know reason, they have no emotion. It's just they're a weed.
You know what? I actually kind of like, I want to build this more as, I mean, this is not how in-jokes work, but the idea of the Arborek having a casino is really great because the Arborek, more than any other faction, struggle with making money early that they really need.
Oh, yeah.
And that for them to be gamblers on top of that would be super unwise. To me, they are, without a doubt, the poorest of poor men at the table.
Really? The Arborek?
Oh yeah, dude. You got you first round. You need like, I forget what the number was that we gave it, but you need like $7, and you have 3, and you don't like sorta need 7, like you desperately need 7, more so than anybody else.
Can I give my real quick strategy guide?
Yeah.
You don't need money. You don't need money. Just have fun. You don't need to win.
That's good strategy. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, have you guys ever thought that maybe you should just not care about winning so much?
Yeah.
Welcome to the final strategy guide episode of Space Cats, Peace Turtles. Is winning really so important?
It was all a ruse.
Back to our possible villains. And then, so we've also got Sar on this list. I think you got to explain to me actually this one, because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this is, when I put something onto this list, it's not they are a bad guy. It is they are a narrative threat that is pounding at the gates. I was saying the other day, I'll say this until the day I die. I think Sar are the only good guys in Twilight Imperium.
They're the most downtrodden, so that makes sense.
Yeah. The two factions I have the most room in my heart for are Sar and Muat. So I think of Sar less as a villain, but when they show up, whenever they do in the fiction, they are gonna be a threat. They're gonna be this massive flotilla, basically, that is meandering through the galaxy, never really finding a roost. Everybody hates them.
Yeah,
that's the story of Sar. No one wants you in their territory.
They're like a rampaging herd of wildebeest, like in Lion King.
Yeah, and at some point, Mechatol Rex is going to be vacated, or it's going to be weak, and the Sar are going to say, this planet's terrible anyway because it's been bombarded to oblivion, so let's just chill here for now.
Yeah. All right. So we've got our bad guys kind of laid out. I want to take a break from like the list and just talk about not necessarily who the good guys in general would be, but what would like our main good guy characters, like who would we want represented? I feel like the most obvious is if there's not a space cat on the cover, that's a good guy. Then why are we even doing the movie? You know what I mean? There's got to be a good guy space cat.
Of course.
Yeah.
Even though I will say that in my read of Twilight Imperium, Hakan are maybe the worst of them all.
Well, they are. Yeah. But the show's called Space Cats, Peace Turtles.
Right.
So.
But then again, what we're looking for in a protagonist, unless we really, really sympathize with them, which is those factions are very few and far between.
Right.
We're looking for someone that we can identify with immediately and be on board with them, and then see how incredibly flawed they are.
Right.
So Hakan's great for that.
Also, it'll get the furries on board, you know? Like, this is also about economics, you know?
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of cosplaying. Also, here's a random shout out. How come I don't see more Twilight Imperium cosplay in the world? I'm going to make a pledge right now. Oh, and I hope I do not regret this, actually. I am going to, at Gen Con... Do I want to say this?
I don't think you want to say it.
Yes, I am going to. And I don't know how I'll make it work because I'm not good at costumes at all. But one day at Gen Con, I am going to cosplay as a space cat, and you deal with that, all right? Let's just move on. I don't want to talk about. I'm good. I don't want to linger on this too much because I don't want to be made to regret what I just said.
Let's not talk about it until the night before, I guess.
Yeah. There we go. So we have actually a really interesting idea for a character. I think it's the only idea actually we've had about characters that I feel like is very well defined. But we want to have a Letnev character that is a good guy. We want the Letnev to be kind of good guys in this. Like sort of Vegeta style good guys where like they've got a bad ideology, but like they're not horrible. And we have this idea actually because we like really nailed down exactly what we thought we would want for this movie for some reason. And one of the ideas that I really liked that we had was a Letnev character that was like a disgraced captain of a dreadnought, basically, that had like failed to maybe bombard some Soul, ground forces, like what actually happens in a Twilight Imperium game. Mm-hmm. So there's something.
I don't even know, if you look at their faction sheet, I don't even know what tells you that they're bad guys.
I think it's just like all the association of them being space Nazis, but also the more and more I realize it, I think maybe me and Matt are the only ones that really read them that way. Like, I think this is just something that me and Matt have always
they're very
kind of held in our hearts. I
don't know. I look at them and I think, and I think Nazis aren't too far off from this, but I think like late 19th century like maybe World War One. I don't know. But they do look very like
Prussian. They look Prussian.
Yeah. But they look regal in the same way that the Nazis tried to make themselves regal. But they're I don't know.
I want to talk about real quick, like, what's our opening credits basically for this movie? Like, I feel like the obvious, here, I'll just share my vision of the opening credits first, and then you can do yours. So the way I'd imagine this movie opening is, if you have ever seen the documentary called Jodorowsky's Dune, it's about this filmmaker. His name is Alejandro Jodorowsky, and he tried to make an adaptation of the science fiction book Frank Herbert's Dune. And his idea for an opening shot was just like a zoom in through the universe, basically, until you get to the like specific place in the universe where the action is happening, the opening scene, essentially. So you pass through all of these like kind of cosmic entities, and like maybe you see like a fight between some space pirates and like a space freighter, and it just keeps zooming in until we get to our characters. I would love to do this with Twilight Imperium, and then like maybe have it like kind of touch on like a lot of little things that maybe the audience, like the most of the audience members, aren't going to get, but then like for Twilight Imperium fans, will really let them know that this is going to be a faithful adaptation, like passing by planets like Abyss Freya that like might not be a part of the story, but like, hey, they're here's the universe, going through a gravity rift, like just I've always really liked the idea
to kind of like see some of the stuff that we're not going to be able to see in the movie.
That
like
we're not going to be able to talk
we
about.
Won't be able to really get to.
Right. Like maybe we see an Arborec space plant, but we don't like the Arborec aren't necessarily going to be. We have 17 factions, so
and it
gives
you a sense of like the diversity and scale of the world. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this is super campy, but I was thinking, why not? You come in from black, and you're looking at an isometric view of the galaxy itself. And that's just the first thing you see. And
with the hexes and everything?
Not the hexes, just like the planets. You see the whole galaxy laid out. And that's the only nod that you'll ever really give to it being an actual board game.
Right. I mean, I think it would be great to start with that.
And then you move in and get particular. But also, who am I kidding? The first thing that you really should see... Alright, so imagine the lights have gone out in the theater. You paid $15 to go see this. You got your hot dog and your extra large Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
You watched all the commercials. And the lights go out. And on the screen it's black, but the projector's going. And the first thing you see is directed by Wes Anderson.
So you know you're in for something. You're really in for something.
Just a romp through space.
Yeah, just a fun, goofy,
Not really family friendly.
Right. But it's passing for it. What about this? Okay, so the lights go down. You've got your hot dog. You've got your pitcher of beer. 3 pitchers. You've got whatever.
One per hour.
One per hour, because it's going to be 3 hours. And then screen's black, and it says, directed by Christian T. Peterson. Just get him. Just get him. Just get the guy. Just pitch it to the guy that knows. The number one dude. Christian T. Peterson has a young spirit, and he likes to experiment, and I guarantee you if a movie studio called him up today and was like, have you ever directed a film before? No. Do you want to direct like a huge like high budget science fiction romp? Yes, he would. I don't know if it would be good, but I know he would try. He
would do it.
What's
what do we actually start with?
No, I like that. In fact, I'm already down to talk directors and to talk cast.
Oh, yeah, you want to talk about it?
Yeah, let's do it. So we've got let's talk. Who's going to be in this? Whose faces are we going to see on screen?
Like I said, I am. I used to be just so on top of who was making movies, who was starring in movies, etc. And in my old age, I've really veered away from that.
Right.
So
you're watching festival circuit movies.
Yeah, it's not exactly my thing, but I do know one man that should definitely be in it. He may have played this game at some point in his life, and his name is Vin Diesel.
Oh yeah. Hey, what's great about Vin Diesel is he's got that bald head, so you could put anything on it. He's a blank canvas of a human being, He could be Isarl, right? He's bald. Easy.
Extra.
Yeah, extra, because he's bald. You could throw some cat ears on there, and now he's a con. He kind of looks like Tsar, so that's fine. Soul, obviously, he's got that. All of them. He could play any of them. I mean, actually, I'm sorry, I said it wrong. He should play all of them. This movie should just be a Vin Diesel. How about Vin Diesel doesn't speak in it, but he plays all of the roles, and then we just have a VO cast kind of speak for it. Would that be cheaper, Because we can pay Vin the big bucks to kind of do all the acting, and then we can pay, this VO cast. Like, we can pay them very little.
I don't know how much the big bucks is.
I don't know. For Vin, it's probably pretty crazy.
Honestly, though, what professional movie actor can you guarantee has attended Gen Con at some point?
You're actually getting kind of serious here, and actually it does make sense.
Yeah, that is my point. Like, he's such a nerd. He loves D&D.
Yeah.
He did Riddick, which was just his.
Right.
He wrote Riddick. He's the guy. He's the guy you gotta get on board.
No, you're right.
in some capacity.
He gets butts and seats. You know what I mean? This guy is this guy's a franchise boy. Everybody would come see this movie, basically. Yeah. No, you're right. This is it.
And I do think you have to give him something more than Groot. I think that he is going to need to be a big player in some capacity. Yeah,
a main character. Maybe the main character. Or maybe the fan favorite character, kind of the Han Solo of the bunch.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
What about directors? Are there any other people we see direct, like maybe a real director? Like
are you saying Wes Anderson isn't a real director?
Oh, no. I'm saying that Wes Anderson, well, no, I am not saying that. But what's somebody that, I mean, I know you really like him, but what about Steven Soderbergh? You'd be excited to see Steven Soderbergh do this, right? Science fiction film, big budget. Has he ever done anything like that before?
Actually, he has.
He has?
I just remembered it. He directed a remake of Andrei Tarkovsky's Solaris with George Clooney.
Oh, he did that. I didn't even know that.
And I think it was Sandra Bullock.
That's crazy.
I'm gonna look it up real quick. Let's not go
Gravity?
off on this.
No. You're thinking of Gravity, though.
Yeah, I'm thinking of Gravity.
Mm-hmm.
I obviously have not seen this remake of Solaris. Like I said, Steven Soderbergh, he said he was over. He said he was going to be done, and he was just going to make Brandy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back with a heist movie that was pretty good, and I think he could do it.
Well, I know he's just like one of your personal faves, so I'm kind of giving you. What about somebody of some recent fame? What if we got Guillermo on this? Guillermo del Toro to direct Twilight Imperium, the movie. We've got a lot of creatures, right? Guillermo loves creatures.
Guillermo would be the one, because he loves creatures.
Right.
But if he could just get away from being in love with the creatures.
Oh, yeah. I see what you're saying. His vision of Twilight Imperium might be a little sensual, as opposed to I don't know, somebody just a little more straightforward, like Dennis Villeneuve, whatever that guy's name.
Yeah,
that guy would be cool. Obviously,
you know, I don't want to rag too much on Guillermo. I'm a big fan of his, but it's like he could do all the creatures, he could do the practical effects, but then again, honestly, like, I don't know if he's the one. Actually, that brings up another topic for anyone that did see The Shape of Water. Is there room in Twilight Imperium for a love story?
Yeah. That's what will be the star-crossed lovers of the movie? I mean, maybe a Soul and a Hakan. You know, we love our cats. We love kitties.
Right, of course. I mean, and then you get the furries on board too.
Right, and we need them. They're an important part of it. What about like Jolnar and then like Muad? Well, you know what it should be actually, and this is definitely, I think this is maybe the last point because this is kind of what this. I feel like this is where we're at, but the way this movie ends, I already have the ending. We've got Vin Diesel playing Hakan, and we have Vanessa Redgrave playing an extra, and they make out. Space Cats, Peace Turtles. Adios, gazebos.
Where's My Mind starts up.
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
As Mechatol is being bombarded.
Right. As Mechatol is burning. Yeah, Ben looks over with his cat ears at Vanessa Redgrave with her turtle beak, and he's like, you know, I met you at a really strange time in my life. And and then the first couple notes of Where Is My Mind, and you know,
and then
right
no more of Where Is My Mind. Just the first couple notes, and then it cuts out. Yeah,
right at the snare, and then Project Mayhem blows up all the you know, what was it? The stuff, the bombs, and then the cities fall, and there you go. There's your movie. I told you we'd do it. And Mickey Mouse comes out, and he's like, I'm so glad I bought the, like, the end of the movie, strangely, is Mickey Mouse just coming out and being like, well, it was a good investment, and I'm glad I did this, and where's the next thing that I might purchase? Because it was a Disney movie. Who'd have thunk? Directed by Mickey Mouse. Produced by Donald Duck and Goofy. So it's kind of a Kingdom Hearts thing, too.
You didn't mention any Final Fantasy characters.
No. I think they're trying to get away from that in general, but there you go. There's the movie. And if you can edit in Where Is My Mind right now to be playing, that would be perfect. And then that's the transition. All right, so welcome back. What a weird episode this has been, but we gave you some real drama there at the end, and now we're getting into the errata, everybody's favorite part of the episode. I was even thinking maybe we would just do the errata even, and then we came up with this idea of talking about Twilight Imperium movie. But let's get right into it. Our first, this errata obviously is from the This Imperium Life episode from last week, which we don't even traditionally do errata for, but we just have two really juicy ones that is really worth talking about. The first one is from In Mac We Trust, and it is a mandatory errata. In Mac We Trust is a space kitty, so anything he says goes. In his story, he mentioned he had a story about the Nalu, and the story, if you listen to it, did not really make sense because he talked about Nalu as if they did not have Sarween tools. But of course, we all know, I mean, obviously not me and Matt or In Mac We Trust, But most people know that Nalu starts with Sarween tools. So this errata is just to mention that myself and Matt, and in Mac we trust, that we are all fools, and that you shouldn't listen to anything that we have to say, because none of us caught that. Not one of us. I was even thinking that maybe in TI3 they didn't start with Sarween. Maybe they don't. And that maybe it was a TI3 story, but it is not. So it's, we're all bad boys. And then our last errata is from Board Game Geek, and it is from, well, actually, it's from Board Game Geek, it's from Reddit, it's from all over the world.
I said it.
You even said it, and it's that Wellington is the capital of New Zealand. So last week, somebody brought up Wellington, and then we started doing British accents to be funny, because we weren't thinking about the fact that Wellington is not British, it's New Zealand. So we should have done Kiwi accents, but we did not. All right, well, that about does it for the errata. I'm going to do the rundown real quick. Thank you guys for sticking with us, by the way, like through this episode. I knew it was like something kind of different, and we just got done doing this Imperium Life, so I'm sure a lot of you are really thirsty for us to get back to the strategy kind of focus of the show, and we will get back to it. And also, we have Gen Con coming up in a month, guys. It is literally, I've got my plane tickets. We have, actually, I want to ask you something real quick, Alex. Are you ready? Are you going? Are you gonna be with us?
I don't think I'm going, which is a shame.
I am finding that out live on the show, and it makes me sad.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a reason that is not so good, and there's a reason that is this festival happens pretty soon after, and
right.
Yeah, I wish I was going. I'm really excited. I'm excited to see the coverage.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's gonna be super fun, and we got a lot of people there to work on it. But let me. I'm not gonna get too far ahead of myself. Let's do the rundown real quick. You can go to Twitter, Space Cats Pod, for game updates and announcements. You can check out our Facebook, Space Cats Peace Turtles, for announcements, and that's also a good place to ask us just kind of general questions if you want to ask direct. We post every week on Reddit Twilight Imperium. That is a good place for discussion, especially if you want your comment featured in the errata. That's like a really good place to go. We have a Board Game Geek Guild that's kind of difficult to get to, but it is generally linked in all of the Reddit posts. That's another good place to go for more discussion, which has been kind of quiet lately. But there are some like specific users that really like to use BGG as compared to Reddit. We also have our calendar on the BGG Guild, which right now is probably in disarray, but we're always trying to make that better. Please email us at spacecatspiecturtles@gmail.com. The emails that we like to get are This Imperium Life submissions and Play of the Week submissions. Please throw into the subject line whether you feel like it is a This Imperium Life or Play of the Week submission. Remember, This Imperium Life is like stories. Play of the Week is like just a very specific, just kind of one thing that happened. You can go to our Patreon, Space Cats Peace Turtles, to contribute to the show and help make the podcast better and help us with really what we're doing in just a month from now. I mean, this would be a really good time for you to start joining in on the Patreon if you've been thinking about it, because we are just about to do the project that is the whole reason that we even have a Patreon. We will be there filming starting August 1st. And also, if you're going to Gen Con, please reach out and let us know, because we're going to be there. Please rate us on your podcast app, specifically Apple Podcasts and iTunes. It really helps with visibility for the show, and it just gets more people into this. I'm going to talk my comedy stuff real quick. I want to thank listener, I think Queso is the name. They came out to watch my, and I think maybe possibly some others came out as well. That's the only one I really know about. But I advanced in the comedy competition that I entered, and I did it because I'm a friggin' winner. And it was awesome. And now I'm going to the semifinals for the Portland's Funniest Person contest. My round is on July 10th at 7 p.m. at Helium Comedy Club again. And it costs $10 or half if you call ahead. At this point, though, I will say the first round is all audience vote. And from here on out, it will just be a panel of judges deciding my fate. So if you want to come out just to see me perform, that's super great. And obviously we need an audience there. But at this point, the call is more of a like, hey, if you just want to come watch, it's fine. It really, I will always appreciate the support. But unlike the prelims, this will not just be made or broken based on the support that I'm able to pull. Now I have to impress the fancy pants people, which I'm sure I will. One other show I want to mention, comedy-wise, I have a sketch comedy group called The Love Boys. We do fake relationship advice. We do dating advice. It's very tongue-in-cheek, very silly, very sarcastic. We've been doing shows all around town ever since December of last year, and we just now decided that we're going to do our own show with our own lineup where you're going to see lots of sketch stuff. We've got PowerPoint stuff. We filmed some video sketches. And you're also going to see some stand-up, actually, from a feminist comedy collective called Cramps Comedy. Some pretty close friends of mine. And the show is called The Love Boys Comedy Show, and that's going to be on July 11th at 9 p.m. I think the doors are at 8:30, so the show starts hard at 9. Those tickets are $5, and that is at a bar in downtown Portland called Kelly's Olympian. And for this week, I want to thank some Patreoners. I want to thank Ambrose the Vile. I want to thank Daniel Bowley. I want to thank the Commander, as always. And I want to thank Alex Lilburn, of all people. And to say you're welcome to me, Alex, will you please do me the favor of reading the play of the week?
1 second. Absolutely, Hunter. All right. This play of the week is from Shalev or Shalev. They can let Matt know how their name is pronounced next week at the very end of the episode. And here it is. My fiance was out of town, leaving us with only 5 players. Not wanting to use the unbalanced board, I decided that the only solution was to create an AI for the 6th player. I spent at least half a day drawing up decision trees, creating probability tables, and creating guidelines that resolve to, if you have less than 6 command tokens on your board, take leadership, unless an enemy fleet is currently in range of your home system, in which case take diplomacy, etc., etc. This being the yin, I decided to put in one overriding rule. Whenever possible, build your flagship. If any player is adjacent to your systems, treat them as an enemy. If you have previously been attacked by an enemy and they have a large fleet near you, send the van huge directly at it at full ramming speed. My poor friend didn't realize that the yin are a vengeful race with a long memory. That single yin destroyer he blew up in round 2 came back to haunt him as the AI built van huge after van huge and sent it off to detonate, and by the game's end, destroyed 3 full War Sun-led fleets. Was it unfair? Perhaps, but the rest of us were laughing too hard to listen to his protestations. We've since retired the overly vengeful AI, but have never let him forget how a couple sheets of table-filled paper thwarted his plans for galactic domination.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really strange. Just the idea of... It reminds me of... have you ever seen that calculator that somebody built with paper?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like that.
Or like those the calculators people or computers people build in like Minecraft.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's totally like that. So the Shalev, you are insane, and I would really actually like to, if somebody would actually create AI players for Tabletop Simulator, which is probably impossible, but if somebody does do it, I would actually like that, because this gave me the idea of like how fun would it be to just have AI play Twilight Imperium, like all the players are AI players, and you just commentate over that, and that just sounds like a really fun stream. I think that about does it for us this week. Do you have any last words you want to say, Alex? You're the first guest host of the show. You know, we've had guests before, but never a guest host.
I have nothing I want to say.
Oh, okay. Well,
I don't know. What do I guess thanks for having me on. It's always a pleasure.
Oh yeah.
But,
well, that's great. You're excited for are you excited for Matt to be back next week?
I'm excited for Matt to be back.
There we go. That's a good note to end on. Just yeah. Love you, Matt. Come back, Matt.
Thank you for listening to Space Cat's Peace Turtles. And thanks to Ben Prunty for the use of his music. You can find more at benpruntymusic.com and benprunty.bandcamp.com. Pax Magnifica, Bellum Gloriosum.